Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome to Midnight Mandela. Hope everybody's doing good this week. It's been another strange week since 2012, I guess, huh? All right, see who's in. So, looks like you guys doing pretty good here. Alone. Okay, Alone. These dresses were actually from the pilot episode. Okay, you are referring to the thumbnail, which is Star Trek uniform men in dresses. Actually, no, they were supposedly in the first several seasons, believe it or not. Let's see. Vivian Mercedes, Preliminal, Shari, of course, Joe Blore. I think that's most of you. Lord Frybread, Pearl the Cat. Logical Danger, Mandanimal, Life Matrix. How are you doing? Pearl the Cat was in there. Maybe she bailed on you. You know how cats are. They have their own minds. So, I've talked to a couple people on this, and some people totally remember this as everybody knows that Star Trek official uniform involved men in skirts. And we're not talking about the skirts with the leggings. I mean your knock-kneed, bare-kneed. So these are images from the show. So they wear the same skirt as, say, Troy wore or something. So these were in aired episodes. In the background, supposedly they had lots of men's in skirts. Here's another one. And it's interesting because they said it was several seasons. I don't find a lot of images online of them. And there was a lot of seasons, there's a lot of episodes that had it. You all just didn't notice. So here's Troy. So you can see she wears the same thing that the men wore. And apparently they were called scants. C-A-N-T-S. This is skirt pants is what they're calling it. I mean, it's a dress. Let's face it. This is a dress. It's a short dress. But somehow it was called a skirt. Actually, even named it a skirt on my thumbnail because apparently I was brainwashed because indeed this is a dress, as somebody pointed out to me after I already made my thumbnail. I should have said it was a dress. So you can see there's people, fans dressing in it, and it's I just say no, I'm sorry, it was not a famous thing for me. Apparently for some people it was a famous thing in Star Trek that men wore dresses. This is the late 80s. I think when the first season was in 87, so they're saying several seasons had this. Let's see, here's the story. Someone watches an early episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. They look in the background and they ask the question, why is that man wearing a miniskirt? It's not a miniskirt, it's a dress. The answer is rooted in sexism and non-sexism. Let's see. Men of Starfleet had a wide variety of uniforms, blah, blah, blah. But women of Starfleet, almost without exception, wore dresses. Yeah, it's not skirts, it's dresses. In fact, the majority of them were mini skirts. Actually, they were mini dresses when you want to get technical. In an interesting note, in the original unused Star Trek pilot, The Cage, have I ever seen, it was unused. How come we don't get to see that one? Female Starfleet crew wore pants just like the men. In the reshot pilot, the women were dressed in skirts, which are dresses, and remain so for the rest of the classic series. This wasn't the only change the studio forced on the production as a step away from feminism. Who wrote this thing? The studio also demanded they cut a female first officer named Number One. Okay, how fans received the miniskirts. Star Trek fans began to criticize the miniskirts, which were dresses. They said such overt sexualization of the women on the show contradicted its claim of feminism. Okay, but then I guess that's why they put the dresses on the men. Of course, Star Trek could have just said, yes, we admit it, we just wanted some cheesecake on the show, but that doesn't fit the narrative of Star Trek. So when people complained, the Star Trek's community response was, nah, the mini skirts weren't sexist because men wore them too. It was unisex. The skirt designed for men, scant, a combination of skirt and pant, was a logical development. The next question was, so where were all the men in miniskirts on the original series? The answer would be that there were some, but you just didn't see them. You didn't see the men with dresses, which were skirts, which were skants, which left uncomfortable stares and raised eyebrows. That gap is what Star Trek: The Next Generation tried to fill. All right, in the pilot episode, Encounter at Farpoint, we get our first glimpse of the male scant in the background in this episode. Overall, the men wearing scants appear in 5 episodes of the first season. Encounter at Farpoint, Haven, Conspiracy, Where No One Has Gone Before, and 1100, blah, blah, blah. They also appeared in second season episodes The Child, The Outrageous Sakona, Schizoid Man, and Samaritan Snare. Their final appearance came during flashbacks in the series' final All Good Things. Of course, they were only background characters, but still, I'm sorry. I think, if they hadn't had the knees showing, I could see me not noticing, but I'm sorry, but a man walking around with a receding hairline and his knees showing, it would be hard to not, I just feel like I would have noticed that. And I feel like I should have heard about it even if I didn't notice it. So I'm really suspicious about this. Late 80s, that would have been like a thing, at least in my timeline. And apparently in some people's timelines, it really was a thing. Let's see. So Next Generation, Star Trek. I think it was 87. Next Generation aired from September 87. Okay, so late 87 to May 94. So it started in 87, late 87. My gosh. I just think that would be in such a thing back then. Now, not a big deal. But there, even now, there are really not many shows that have men in skirts that are just like normal shows. So yeah, was it like 10, 12 episodes, whatever I just reeled off. No men in skirts that were dresses. Why did they call them skirts? They're not. Like, yeah, so there are some clips of people were pointing it. Apparently, a lot of people, when I said this, thought I was talking about this time Picard wore like kind of a dress. It looked like a dress, but then he had like leggings on or some kind of pants or something, black pants underneath. So then it looks more like a tunic, kind of. Like, what's the difference between a tunic and a dress? I think it's what you wear underneath it. And when you have pants on underneath, it looks more like a tunic. And when you don't, it looks like a dress. So there was an episode where there was a dress uniform and Picard wore this tunic, whatever, with a black pants type thing underneath. And it's a little bit like, you're like, Now, I actually saw that the first time a couple years ago, and I was actually taken aback when I saw it a couple years ago, the one where he wore like a dress, but so I'm like kind of wondering if that was always there, but it at least has been there for a number of years for me. I do remember Troy wearing some short skirts a few times, personally. Not all the... Troy was weird. She wore all kind of stuff, I mean, like... She's like she had some special dispensation to wear like non-uniform stuff. I used to always say, well, why is she is not in uniform? Even though she was working like as a counselor and stuff, it wasn't like just off hours. I mean, she would be on the bridge wearing different stuff, low cut stuff. It was weird. And see, even if you should be seeing these in the fan club wearing them. And I mean, I maybe in the 80s they wouldn't have, but still, I don't know. It's just something that's been bugging me for years. How many of you remember things flipping back with it? I don't know what you mean by flipping back. Remember when for years everyone had dark ring around the iris part of their eyes? I still have that, don't I? So that showed up, when was that? Was early Mandela time. So what, like 7 years ago or something, around there? When everybody's like, wait. I'm pretty sure I'm almost positive I still have that. So it showed up in mine too, and I would say that I noticed it around 7 or 8 years ago because the Mandelas were, I realized that it was a Mandela, but a few years before that, I knew of Mandela. Before I knew of the Mandela, I'm not making sense today. A few years before I knew of the Mandela, I did see that ring around my eye, and I was thinking, what is that? Like I kind of didn't really remember having it, but then I'm like, well, I must have just not been paying attention. So I don't think I had that going way back, actually. And I do remember when I noticed it, I'm like, that looks good. I was kind of like, that's styling. But then I didn't think beyond it. And then a couple years later, when I learned of the Mandela, I was like, wait a minute, did I always have that? So, but I have not lost it. It's been there the whole time as far as I think I would really see now if I looked in the mirror and it wasn't there, because it's quite a different look. Then again, the Mandela has a way of sneaking under the radar, so I noticed it was gone. Never trust a dude in a tunic from Land of the Lost. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't known a lot of dudes in tunics, so I can't say I really I can really chime in on that one. Shari, you just got the dark ring, huh? That's interesting, because for me, we were talking a lot about this just like 7-8 years ago, and I haven't really heard much since then. People it's kind of one of those Mandelas where you just, oh yeah, remember when that was the thing. I haven't thought of that in so long. My Mandela 8-year anniversary is next week. Yeah, I think mine is August would be my 8 year, so I'm like at 7.5 years now. All right, so yeah, I don't know what happened. Now I'm curious about Star Trek Troy. What did she all wear? I feel kind of fickle today. Now I'm just curious. All right, that was that time when she got old and crabby because somebody was sucking out her life force. She always had these low cut things. Oh, see, and here's the sideways cut one. I'm like, I don't remember anybody else doing a sideways cut one. Long dress. Those are off hours. There was a couple other ones that I saw that I was like, what? They always made sure like her whole neck was really visible, and I was always like, no, this doesn't seem like all the other girls are showing all that neck. Okay, then there was this one she would wear. I do remember that one. See, like, number one is in uniform, and she's got that on. I'm like, wait a minute. And this is an away mission, so she's working. So I always felt like she had a lot of divergent clothing. I mean, I assumed it was for eye candy, you know, to attract the men, and it's not a big deal, but... Anybody remember the name of the CIA director in JFK time? I wasn't even live back then. I think so. Oh, so you lost your ring around your iris. I kind of feel like there's people like go in different directions now. Every now and then I meet somebody who has come, it seems like they came from a more extreme version of where we are now. They're like going opposite direction for me in timelines. Not a lot, but it does happen. Whoopi had a non-normal wear. Yeah, but she was just a guest on the ship that was consulted, wasn't she? She wasn't actually working on this. You know what it was? She was a private worker. So she's like, I'm pretty sure she wasn't an official crew member, but she was a worker on the ship for like her own gig, I think. Like, she wasn't required to do anything other than her job in that bar. Like, they couldn't say, now you have to go do an away mission or something. She wasn't under the command. So whenever they wanted for something from her, they had to ask. That was my impression. I'm not a total Trekkie, so maybe more people know better details. But I don't remember they could ever command her to do anything. They had to say, may I please talk to you? All right, I'm going to go look at and make sure the ring around my eye is still there. Hold on, I'll be right back. Now that you've made me think about it. Yep. Still there. Let's see. I don't know why this always... Yep. Now it's like real time almost over there. Okay, so one thing I noticed about the ring, though, I haven't really looked at it for a while. What I remember when I first saw it, it was a little bit thicker, but and kind of even around. Like, it was like somebody took a big thick charcoal pen and ran it around, right? And it was a little bit modeled on the edges. So what I see now is right around the very edges, it's very dark, and then it fades in more. So it's like more refined. It's actually thinner, but it has like a fade thing that it didn't used to have. So it is different than I remember it on that. What do you call that ring? I forgot the name of that ring around the eye. There was a fancy name for it that reality has. Oh, yeah. So somebody was saying there's a President Nixon opera. I can't say I know, like, Nixon in China. I can't say I know every opera there ever was, but San Diego Opera. It's kind of funny because I live here, but, an opera in 3 acts by John Adams. Nixon in China. Inception. All right, I wasn't quite here yet when that happened, so maybe that's part of it, but let's see. Reception. Received mixed reviews. Okay, I don't know. I can't say I would have known on that one. It does sound pretty hilarious, but... Troy wasn't actually an officer at first, so her clothing wasn't the same as others. Okay. But wait, all the other, even the ensigns all had to wear a uniform, though. I mean, when you were on duty, you were wearing a uniform. You weren't allowed to trot around and whatever. I mean, she wasn't, she was a member of the military or whatever you want to call it. She wasn't just like a civilian. That's my point. She wasn't a civilian. I mean, all the low-ranking guys that go down on the away missions and get killed, they all are still in uniform, but not her. Not her. What was up with the octagonal iris? I never had an octagonal iris, but there was people saying they had it and showing images of their eyes, and I found other images around. And some, that show is still up, that old episode, and I get people all the time still commenting, like, they looked in the mirror and they have it too, and they're all freaked out. So it's still a thing. But that was never a first-hand thing for me, so it's hard for me to check on that. I read about Alan Dallas. It was not just listening to people talking about him. The newspapers had him as Dallas. Oh, then he changed to Duels, and that was that JFK era guy. Always Duels for me. Yeah, who the heck knows? I don't know on that one. She was in title, yes, but she's a counselor, but no real knowledge of the ship. Yeah, but a lot of those low-ranking slob officers didn't know. I mean, they knew less than her. So it never made sense to me. I think they just had some kind of flimsy excuse to have her, like, show more cleavage. Michael Russum, hooked on my show. Yay, thank you. Yeah, it's a good point. The JFK movie, you do have to wonder if it's changed or not, or if it still has old residual of the old timeline. I wonder if fire has changed again too. Look different again to me. Wood fire, campfire. I haven't done a campfire in a long time, so I will take a peek next time. The last couple times we camped, we just didn't. I used to camp with a big group, and a lot of those people just aren't doing it anymore. I don't know. It's just harder to even get anything together anymore. People are just, it just seems like they're a lot less social. Even the people that were social, like older people that were social, and they're not too old to still be social, are just not doing it. It's very hard to get anybody together anymore. So the last few times I went, there was only a couple people, and we didn't do a campfire. It was just I don't know, it just didn't seem like worth it. I used to have a flatbed pickup I'd take, and it was easy to plop firewood in there because you didn't really care if, like, dirt got all over. But now I have the enclosed Xterra. I don't really want to put buggy, dirty firewood in there, so that also contributes. So then I'd have to... Oh, this one. Yes, I've had this one on. Can I just, like, make it... You know what bugs me the most is I can't control these things. Like, where's the sound? Description, captions. I want to turn off the sound. I can't do it. I can't, like, jump ahead. I don't think. We've had this on before. So he comes to the top of the... I'm afraid if I just play it again, I'm going to get, like, a copyright thing. But one thing you can do is cheat and go... Top view, top of pyramid. Because we have had that on, but I had it on as a regular long YouTube where I could jump around. There it is. This is what you're going to see. Interestingly, I just saw this going viral on Reddit, and the one thing I really noticed is these holes. I almost was going to have it on the show. actually, now that I'm looking at it huge like this, I noticed two things. There's these little holes, which had totally distracted me. Because the last time I looked at this was on like a year or so ago that I saw that supposedly the same video. The thing I noticed the last time was that this looks squared off nicely. It wasn't like that. The little holes in the stuff wasn't there. It was flat on the top. And see, it looks like it's kind of like these ones are bigger on this one. But now that I'm looking at this, it doesn't look like it's square. I mean, look at the distance here to here. It looks like these sides come up as a non-square angle. Now, I don't know if there's some reason why I'm just confused. But this square top doesn't square off with these ones here. Like there's something off about it. It used to be picture perfect, everything lined. So way back, all these stones were all beautifully slotted together. They weren't all bumpy. They were like this, and they used to have the story, you can't even put a piece of paper between them. That was the story for the pyramids. Now it's all scrabby, and then they started saying that inside is not high-end stones, but just like, last I checked, they were saying they just put like some kind of fill in the middle, so it's not even stones all the way through. And then another time they said there's some lower quality crappy stones on the bottom and better stones here. I haven't even checked it in a while, so I don't know what the current story is, but it didn't used to look all scrabbly like this. It was really nice. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that does keep changing. I agree with you there. I mean, look at it. Look at how, like, it's so bumpy and rough looking. The quality has extremely degraded. I mean, it's been looking crappy for quite some time now, but even people in our chat shift personalities and memories. Yep. I was just talking to somebody. I think there may have been like a pretty big shift recently, because there's a couple people on our chit chat group that we have all different, like there's been another scramble in the memories. And when we were talking, it was just crazy. We're like, no, this, no, you said that. No, I didn't say that. You said that. No, I didn't say that. Medical history's changing, all kinds of stuff. So, another scramble. The other thing I'll say is, I remember in the 90s sometime, there was a time, was it like late 90s? It might have been more around the aughts. Yeah, maybe it was more around the aughts. Yeah, I don't think it was 90s. More like after the year 2000. Maybe around, more like 2010 maybe. There was just a time when I suddenly had trouble remembering the past, and I just remembered thinking, well, that's weird. And then I thought, well, maybe I've changed so much that it was, I had changed, and that makes it hard to remember the old me. But lately I've kind of had that feeling again, like the past just is a little harder to access. Like there's certain memories that are distanced, and I haven't had that feeling in a long time. So that's kind of freaking me out a little. It's like one day I'm just like, why is it hard to remember that? And it wasn't hard to remember that last week. That kind of thing. It's obvious that it has casing stones molded over the surface at one time, and those are gone, leaving the messy interior showing. But that wasn't the thing, though. For me, it wasn't. They had very nice, well-fitting stones all the way on the whole thing, and that was part of the mystique, because it's so beautifully done. And how did they cut the stones so perfectly that you can't even get a piece of paper in there, blah blah. Now, it has been crappy for a while. We were talking a lot about this more like 6 or 7 years ago when it really started to look shabby, but things we know that are woo-woo for our normies are coming out for them now. They're starting to talk about how come before elections politicians are going to Antarctica. I have noticed that. It's like slowly people are questioning more and more, like, wait a minute. It's about time. I mean, so many crazy things have been happening in the news. Like, how much longer can you stick with the narrative when they're constantly flip-flapping and saying the opposite? And then when that Epstein didn't kill himself thing got popular and I saw that hit mainstream, I'm like, conspiracy theory is a slippery slope, because once you accept one and that the government did something tricky here and they can't be trusted, it just gets all the more easier to think more and more. But the other thing I've really noticed lately is that the division, even among conspiracy theorists, is getting kind of extreme. Not always just fighting, but just having like a conversation. It's getting hard because, like I was just saying, like the other day, I'm listening to people talking, and we're all into the woo conspiracy theory thing. But it's like one person says, well, you know, if we go to Mars, and then the next person goes, well, there is no Mars, space is fake. And then they're like, oh, well, okay, you know, I don't know about that, but, so if, let's just say that Biden can't be trusted, and then someone else, oh, no, Biden is a reptile, everybody knows that. It's like everybody's got these, like, very specific worldviews that they're sure are right. Like, they're sure there's no space, or there is space, or there's it, like the flat earth or not, or they're sure. And it's like, even in our community, they're kind of like dividing away from their, like, you believe this exact long list of specific things or you're wrong, because my way is for sure how it is. And they're getting very complicated, very complicated interaction worldview. Like you designed a world in your head, a whole narrative. There's a lot of interlocking parts. They've spent a lot of time snapping together factoids to fill in this scaffold of belief. And each person's scaffold of belief is like very individual, and now very much more complicated and sophisticated than it used to be. And it's hard to have a conversation, because the minute you start talking about something, somebody over here is like, nope, nope, nope. And then this guy's nope, 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 nope. And so I've just kind of been sitting back and just watching even our community just divide. And another thing is, like, it's not uncommon at all for people to not only say, you're wrong, but also, well, you're obviously a deep state agent, a Kremlin sympathizer, you're an anti-Semite, you are a boomer, you're a naive child, you're like, you just disagree on one little thing, and boom, you're in this category. Now, not everybody's that bad. Certainly, I've had much more friendly conversations, but there's a huge thing. Like, I see new conspiracy theorists, channels getting popular, and it's more and more common where they're basically saying, well, my way's right, and all these other people that are big in the field, these other 15 people, they're all deep state players, obviously, like all of them. And I'm like, how do you know? I mean, like, can't anybody that's popular not be a deep state player? No, they're all deep state players. But then if this guy's channel gets big, doesn't that make him also a deep state player? Because they say you can't be big unless you're a deep state player. And then when they're big, well, I'm still not. I got lucky, and then blah. So it's just getting, like, ridiculous. You can't have a conversation. Like, I'm like, I watch this guy, and then 3 other people, no, he's a deep state player. And then, it's like, how can you get any news? How can you listen to anything? Because anybody who's big is a deep state player. And it just, I don't know. There's always been holes, the shaft leading up to the king's chair. Nope. For some of us, there definitely was not the giant holes. Although when I was just talking about the pyramid, I meant those little holes that are in the stones. Those weren't there last year, those little holes. And I think I commented about a month ago that there's like little hole pokies showing up in so many of the ancient stones now. And there were never little holes in any of the stones for me. So it's kind of tripping me out. Just the hassle of making those holes by the old theory would have made it extremely interesting conversation. But they weren't there. Not for me. I recall seeing a picture of Graham Hancock. See, another person who gets named a deep state player all the time. Standing on top of the Great Pyramid, and it was a lot smoother. Yep, it's getting worse and worse and worse. I agree there was no slot. They did not cut a giant hole like that. They never had. So that gaudy entrance, I think that's actually supposed to be a separate, very suspicious, but supposedly separate facade entrance thing that goes to a different structure, but just happens from photo taken from the distance to look like it is stuck onto the Great Pyramid, but isn't actually. Now, it's been that way for some years, and I keep thinking it's going to somehow become the entrance to the pyramid, or some kind of similar entrance is going to get stuck onto the pyramid, but it hasn't happened yet. One time in high school, I nodded off in class. I couldn't remember where I was supposed to go, what my classes were, and where my locker was. I wondered if that was a major shift. Huh, interesting. That is kind of interesting. Yeah, there was one time around second-ish grade. I'm trying to nail it down. I think it is. You know, it's weird because, like, I feel like certain memories of my past have gotten way more clear, and others have gotten way more fuzzy. Like, I've remembered this memory many times, but I did not so easily tag down the year that it happened. And now I feel pretty strongly that it was second grade, but I know I've tried to figure this out before, and I couldn't. But I was like, no, it had already happened by third grade, and then no, I don't. Second grade, I'm pretty sure second grade now, if you can trust that memory. That I kind of used to just goof off in school, and I kind of sucked, and I had trouble concentrating. It's probably like undiagnosed ADD or something, but I don't know. School was boring, and I just would rather live in my fantasy land in my head. So that yielded not the world's best grades, and there was a time when I was just sitting in class, and suddenly it got like easy. It was weird. It was like everything became easy. Like somebody was reading in class, and reading had been difficult for me. Like, I don't want to say difficult, but it was more of a challenge. And then suddenly I'm like, oh no, reading is easy. I could do it. Like everything just seemed like it was going to be easy. Like, oh, I don't know why that was hard. It's easy. And I was like, I want to do more reading because it's easy. It was just a weird time. It was suddenly like I knew how to do stuff that had been hard, but now I just saw how it wasn't hard. And I still remember that time. I always wonder if there was something weird that happened. And indeed, around third grade, I did start doing better in school. I did not exactly pay attention much better, but things were easier. Like, I could do better with my small amounts of attention that I paid. So, yeah, I always wonder if something happened then, second-ish grade. Conspiracies vary over time. I change my mind about things. I do think so, but I do feel there are way more. Like, every few weeks there's a new thing. Like, Bill was just telling me about the Dog King theory, and then I had just started seeing it everywhere. And the Dog King theory is this theory that when they're trying to demoralize a population, they put the story is they used to enact the dog, like a dog, as being the administrator. Like, this is your king, this is your administrator over your area. And it was just a dog. Like, and it's just to say, you suck so bad, I guess, that you just get a dog. And so they were basically likening many current politicians to being like dogs. Like, they're just to humiliate you. Knowing that that's your leader is just another demoralization tactic. And I'm like, okay, maybe, I don't know. But these people are sure. I'm like, well, it could be that they're just crooked, or they're puppets, or they just suck, or we're bad at voting, or, I don't know. Maybe it is Dog King, but it's just another one where they're sure this is the answer. They're sure. I'm like, there are other possibilities, but nope, they're sure. The strange animation iPad Go 2 shows the pyramids being destroyed. Oh, that is a good point. When something is destroyed, I mean, like, there's more than one way to destroy, right? So I'm going to have to look at that again and see how they get destroyed. Like, what does it look like? What side do you remember Trump's hair parted on? Oh, that is an interesting one. All right. Now, there's a chance he switched it. So we'll have to be wary of that. Because he's getting older, so he probably has less hair. So looking at... See, it now looks like he has more of a comb forward. All right, let's see... Let's see old pictures of him, because, like, 8 years ago pictures, because, you know, he's lost... I'm sure he has to have lost some hair since the last 8 years-ish. See, it's really... In these, it's like... Is this a new one? It looks like it has multiple layers now. So it used to be more of a big bouffant, but it was from one side. But now it's like a comb forward instead of a comb over. Okay, so is that just because he changed his hair now? All right, so let's look at President Trump, because we know those 4 years, I feel like I'm... All right. I think that's right. I thought it was more poofy, though, but... Has his hair subtly changed? It looks like a little flatter or something, doesn't it? Now, official photos are tricky because they may have touched them up. You know, that one they didn't touch up. Oh... I do feel like he has less, maybe has less hair. This one's tricky because he just... He just has so many styles. I'm not seeing ones that are as puffy as I remember. Not the old ones. That one's a tough one. See, there just seems to be like this weird comb forward now. There used to be a really clear comb over with like a big rug that went like this, and when the wind would blow up, it would come up like this, right? But now it looks like it comes over like this, and it would come up like that. It's a comb forward instead of a comb over. So how much is that is just because he's changed it up again because he's run out of even more hair? And how much is potential Mandelas? I'd really have to take a deep dive on that. No photos of being orange. Yeah, that's a good point. I do think he's like kind of changed his tanning style a little in recent years. So maybe they've updated the spray tan or whatever. The one thing that hasn't changed is the weird untanned eye area, which always kind of, see, there he is looking very orange. All right, this is a good one. If elected, Trump might not be a failed debate promise. All right, he hasn't done any debates, so if he has to fulfill a debate promise, this must be an old image. Huh, I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. I don't know. It's so tricky too because there's filters now. So if you're on video, you could be filtered. The official photos are often doctored up, and then I'm pretty sure that Biden has had at least one facelift. So that would account for the weird ear changes, because when you get a big heavy duty facelift, they pull it up behind the ears and they tack it behind the ear, and that can pull out the ear flaps more. So this could like pull out weird. It changes the way the ear edge pulls. So you see the more recent images of him, he's got this weird ear, but that's like classic having a facelift, like fallout from the facelift. Basically, if they make it too tight, then it pulls on the ears. So, but sometimes it's hard not to make it tight if you're real wrinkly. And you can see, I mean, he's clearly had a facelift. So I don't know on a lot of these. I'm not saying there's no doubles, because I don't know that either, but the small holes are where rebar used to be. The blocks weren't carved, they were poured. They weren't there before is all I'm saying. I mean, like, the reality of how they're made may well be different now, but curious how every high-level people in the world is having cancer. Are they, though? Because I don't think Biden or Putin or what's the name? The number two. And, I don't think they're all getting. There might be a lot. I mean, officially statistics, cancer's way up. So, but then I mean, if you're gonna have the storyline like they never got the real shots, and they got all salines, then they shouldn't be getting cancer from it, right? It's pride. Some people can't believe they are anything but 100% correct. They can't accept that they don't know everything. I don't know. There just used to be less of it, you know? But I mean, there used to be like, people would say like, I really bet Epstein didn't kill himself. Okay, that's, you know, they were pretty sure, but they weren't like, you're an idiot. I don't know. There's just so much more of that now. And I feel like it's also gotten like really specific belief systems. Just like there's not, you know, maybe there's evidence for some of your belief system, but not like every detail of it. It's like they're getting more and more detailed about their belief that they're sure is correct. Like I would say I had a pretty strong belief that the government was crooked, but now stack on it, well, I'm sure that Biden did exactly this and Trump did exactly that, and I know exactly what happened behind closed doors at that meeting, and I know it all. Then it's really specific. It's like, oh, Vivian, you were the daydreamer. Yeah, you know what? How would happen is I just would get bored, and they were yammering on and on about something boring, and I would space out, and then an hour later, I'd be like, oh, 5 minutes to recess. What were they talking about? You know? Somehow I managed to do, like, okay by the few moments that I paid attention. I think that's one of the reasons I'm good at figuring out stuff on my own, though, because I wouldn't pay attention, and then I missed like 90% of the tutorial, and I would have to cobble it together, like after missing most of it, and still get enough understanding to like take the test. You remember his hair was parted on the right. I think it was the left for me. I'm pretty sure it was the left. Like when you looked at it on there, it was my right, which would be his left. That's what I remember. But I don't remember the comb forward thing, so I'm going to have to look at old images and see if he always had the comb forward thing, or is that just recent? Okay, for you, his hair got thicker. I remember it as more thick. I'm going to get a water. I'll be right back. I have actually been doing a lot of talking lately because I've been feeling more spry, and then other people have just been showing up in chat, and I don't usually talk this much, and I've always had a problem that if I talk a lot every day, my throat gets a little scratchy, and that is where I'm at right now. Trump, does he look different? Trump is another one that just has a million different expressions. He can look like really different guy depending on the expression they catch him at. I think he uses his face a lot when he talks, and that really contributes it. Like he doesn't keep his face all poker like a lot of them. I wonder how much that contributes to his popularity, just the lifeness in him when he's, he brings it. What you may not agree with what it is, but he puts a lot into it. I think a lot of people are heavily influenced by those kinds of things. Perhaps more of an emotional response versus actually listening to the content. So I think that last I checked, there was evidence that he had this thing where they kind of pull up the skin, like they remove where you're going bald for men. They used to have a thing where they would kind of cut some of that skin out and pull it up and then sew it back, and then there would be some scar along there, but you could just flip your hair over and fix it. And so some people thought he had that done. There was some evidence for it. I mean, I would imagine that he's going to use Rogaine and stuff too. I mean, frankly, if I was a dude and I was going bald, I would, if I had the money. So Hair Club, like, right now, if they want to fix that, they need to, if you want to have hair actually growing out of a bald spot, they would take hair plugs from down where you have a lot of hair, and they would transplant them up here, and they will grow out. The problem is that whatever caused the first ones to die off will start killing off the new ones after a number of years too. So they wouldn't last up there super long. So you can keep moving them, but then at some point you don't have very many down here anymore. So it's limited. Until they learn how to grow all new follicles, it's going to be limited. He could put a toupee up there. Looks like he's just going for the comb over for now. Okay, so what are we talking about? Okay, so what's weird beyond that business? This one was dug up by... So Mark Tyus posted something in comments, and it was about YouTube plant irradiance. YouTube plant irradiance. So I was trying to find what he meant, and I'm not sure I found it. But I did find other stuff while I was digging. Maybe this is what he was referring to. So, but it was fluorescence is more the word that they're using, but maybe they used irradiance. It's not exactly a shock because they've been saying for a while now that humans have a slight bioluminescence that is too low to see with the human eye. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we start eventually hearing that you could maybe see it with the human eye, but not yet. They're now saying that like plant chlorophyll molecules emit a fluorescence, but it is in the infrared zone of light, so your eye supposedly would not be able to see that. But so the story then is light energy absorbed by chlorophyll molecules in a leaf can undergo one of three fates. It can be used to drive photosynthesis, like making energy for the plant, and excess energy can be dissipated as heat, or it can be re-emitted as light. Chlorophyll fluorescence, that's when it's re-emitted as light. These three processes occur in competition such that any increase in efficiency of one will result in a decrease in the yield of the other two. Hence, by measuring the yield of chlorophyll fluorescence, which is the re-emitted light, information about changes in the efficiency of photochemistry, i.e. photosynthesis, and heat dissipation can be gained. So then they're saying about 1 to 2% of total light absorbed is released as this fluorescence, which is in the infrared zone. They said it's being of a longer wavelength than that of absorption. So when I went up here and looked at the wavelengths, you can see this is the visible light spectrum, and longer wavelengths would be in this range. And I'm pretty sure they're not microwaving you, so it's, I would assume, then in the infrared range. Okay, so interesting. So I think in the past I just said, well, the light was just used to drive photosynthesis. I never heard of there being any fluorescence or any heat generated. I'm like, if they can generate heat, then can't they stop themselves from freezing? You would think that they would develop some option like that. I haven't heard of them glowing or anything. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, the argument can be made that I wouldn't know, but the reason I'm bringing this in is because I think it fits in with some other stuff that started coming together on this. So they're just here talking about using fluorescence to tell about efficiency of photosynthesis. So my point just was that there's this thing called fluorescence, which is light emitted as infrared, apparently is emitted as infrared. So then there's this thing like, okay, we've been hearing more about plants communicating with each other. And one of the stories is that there seems to be pretty good evidence that, like, say, one plant is chewed on by caterpillars or attacked in some way, it releases chemicals into the air that the neighboring plants can read and know that there's trouble. So say a caterpillar chomps, it releases certain chemicals that warn other plants, and other plants then increase their release of pesticides, like internal things that might help to deter those pests. Who knows if it will or not. I think it's kind of weird because have you ever seen a caterpillar just go, oh no, these plants are emitting too many VOCs, so I'm not going to eat them. I mean, I've never had a caterpillar turn up their nose, but so would it even work? Maybe if all the plants around one of them was weaker at the VOCs, maybe the butterfly would pick that one. Maybe it would help a tad. I just never really saw any evidence, but maybe that's not here yet. So another way that I've heard that they communicate is using the mycorrhizae, which is the fungal environment in a commensal fungal situation in the dirt. I'm not really exactly sure how. Let's see. Then I've also heard that their roots just grow together and they can kind of communicate by being like one giant underground plant. All right, so that's all I've heard. But one thing I haven't heard is that they could actually directly communicate visually, and I think we're getting that. I think it's squeaking in, okay? And I think it'll be by that fluorescence thing. So this is what I found on YouTube when I was trying to find Mark Dias's thingy. Is this guy is like, if you listen to him, he's like, you're seeing here is and how plants communicate, and you can see that this changes, and it really looks like it's some kind of fluorescent patterns that are changing, and like the plants could somehow see this. But then when you actually and in real time, which is interesting, he makes a big point of it. But then, despite all this visual representation, when he talks, he just talks about releasing the chemicals again. He's not talking about fluorescence, but he makes it really, really seem like it is. And then he doesn't really explain this except for that it's some kind of indication of chemical release, which I don't really get, because wouldn't it be floating in the, I don't know. It's confusing, but I think we're going to get it, basically. That's what I'm trying to get to. I think we're like this close to getting that plants flash complicated light patterns and can communicate with other plants. Then the other plants are able to see incoming light of maybe the infrared kind or some kind of specific wavelength that there's not a lot of contamination out in the with, maybe the sun doesn't produce a lot of that wavelength or something, and they can release it. So it's interesting that they did just say that they released long wave light, but they didn't say it was infrared or anything. I mean, one would imagine it has to be, but they didn't say that, like cough up the info. So I kind of feel like they're setting the stage to drop that last Jenga piece in place, and that's what we're going to get. And I'm not, is this what you were talking about, Mark Tyus? Because this is my guess of what you were talking about. Ah, yes. Easter is not in April. I do have some stuff on that coming up soon. Maybe will I cover it next? Yes. I got an hour. I think I can get through everything. What was weird was Valentine's Day was being celebrated on Tuesday. Isn't it always on Tuesday? I thought Valentine's Day was always Tuesday. You know what I don't remember is I don't remember Valentine's Day being on one day but celebrated on another day. I thought it was always on Tuesday. There was no today it's then, but we're celebrating it over there. I thought it was always on Tuesday. But I agree, Easter used to be in April. Always in April. Always in April. And I have some stuff on that. So yeah, it slipped by me, actually. I just found out that it passed just when I was on here reading your thing. I'm like, oh crap. I usually kind of hear about it, but I don't know. I'm living in a cave now, I guess. So, according to this, they all fluoresce, but because anything that photosynthesizes fluoresces, but it would be in the infrared range. So you wouldn't necessarily see it with your eyes. It's interesting, though, that the infrared range is also the range that feeds our cells energy that allows it to make intracellular melatonin, which is really important as an antioxidant. And the only way to get intracellular melatonin, like in your cell, is through infrared. So now they're saying plants emit infrared, or what looks like to be infrared. So that means just sitting in plants, that infrared potentially may be feeding your cells. So it could be an explanation. Like, you ever sit like with a whole bunch of plants around? It just has that nice feeling, and now that could be actually a physical, scientific explanation for why that would be. Assuming that infrared would be strong enough to penetrate our own skin. Valentine's Day was always on the 14th, was not dependent on the days of the week. It was the 14th, but okay. I thought, yeah, okay. See, Angels remembers. I just remembered being on a Tuesday all the time, so I don't know. Michael Russum's out. See you later. Okay, so we have that, and then I want to talk about this creepy bug. This is one. I have to have a spider. It has been a while. So this is the whip spider, and one of the reasons I'm talking about this is because it's big, it's icky, and it's probably coming to a land near you. So you can see how large it is. Hopefully you guys can see these. Is big. Bigger than a hand. It has a giant whip. I mean, it looks like this whip is like, how long is that whip? It looks like it's super long. Because those legs are bigger than a hand. And look at this stretchy, is that the whip? I don't know, but it's huge. So, here it is. I think I have one here. Yes. There it is. So it has, I think these are what's called the whip. It's tailless. So I don't know what they mean by tailless. I don't remember them have, maybe it has that, doesn't have that little nub that some of them have. And it almost has like hands because it has these pinch, like these front, whatever, pedipalps, or whatever they call them. And then they have like these teeth that come out here, and they're like fingers almost. So there was something weird about the story of them. They're called, the family of them, there's a bunch of kinds apparently. They're called amblypigids, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but something like that. The story here is that they're showing up everywhere. He's credited with uncovering the species' presence in continental Europe, so Europe has them. They were confirmed in 2019. They were found in Jordan. Both of these times were in a bathroom, so wouldn't you love to find that in the bathroom? Last year, he submitted a paper describing 33 new amblypigid species, one of which has only ever been seen in the pipes and storage sheds of a Rio de Janeiro museum. There they are again. You can, let's see if we can kind of see the little putty feet. Okay, so see, there's long antennas, or is that, let's see, 8 legs, they said. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 long legs. Is that legs here then with the hands? And then what are these, antennas, or are they legs? It's getting really confusing. It'd be nice if he would stretch out those little hands so we could see them. Ah, there you can kind of see them. So it's got these like grabby things. Ugh. So the main thing here is that they're showing up everywhere. And it was interesting because somewhere in here they said, oh, they're like the forgotten cousin. They were found in Berlin. The babies live on the mother's back, which is all creepy. There they are. There's a bunch of different colors of these. So it looks like they're like everywhere. But a lot of the terminology in here has that kind of Mandela flavor. You know, they didn't use hiding in plain sight this time, but a lot of similar kind of talk. You gotta have a spider every now and then, right? This one kind of shows the hands. It looks like these things are going to show up everywhere. That's why I'm putting it in. Ugh, look at the things on the back. So many spiders grow the babies on the back now. So there's a whip spider. There's this whip scorpion. There's a whip everything. I don't even know what the heck that is. Whip spider chatwood? Why does it have such a long body? Australian spider belonging to the family. Try to figure out, this is a whip spider too. Is that the body? That's crazy. Totally crazy. All right, so that's Whip Spider and One Page Dawn. All right, now we're going to talk about weird. All right. Leap year. I think this year is leap year, right? Leap year. So how often does leap year come? Now it sounds like an easy question, but just from memory, how often does leap year come? So I can almost guarantee a lot of you will be right, but not quite right. Right, but not quite right. Yeah, but they're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're everywhere, them spiders. Okay, I didn't see a thing where them being there. Let me see. Did they have whip scorpions in America? Whip scorpions. Wait, no, spiders. I saw a thing on the other day. Some people feel North and South America are one continent. One continent. I'm like, this is getting ridiculous. All right. Amblypygi is an order of arachnids, also known as whip spiders or tailless whip scorpions. Not to be confused with whip scorpions or vinegaroons, which belong to the related Thelyphinida. So it's another whip scorpion that's not the other whip scorpion, in case you're getting confused. Now you'll be more confused. As pets. All right, where are they located? They rarely bite if threatened, but can grab fingers with their pedipalps, resulting in thorn-like puncture injuries. Oh, great. Oh, great. So they could just poke you. They're big enough. I'm not exactly shocked, but I'm not thrilled either. They are found in tropical and subtropical regions worldwide. Worm-humid environments and like to stay protected, like in bathrooms. Some species are subterranean. All are nocturnal. All right, so they're everywhere. Everywhere unless it's really cold. So every 4 years, it's my cousin's birthday. Close. All right, let me see if I can find that one. Leap year. I was just laughing because I'm I've never heard this other thing. It's a calendar year that includes an additional day. Yes, to balance that sun cycle thing. All right, here, trying to find where it says it. Each leap year has 366 days. It said it's 365 days. This extra leap year occurs in each year that is a multiple of 4. Except for years evenly divisible by 100, but not by 400. That's the part I don't remember ever hearing. Except for years evenly divisible by 100, but not by 400. I swear when you used to come to Wiki, it just said it happened every 4 years. 4 years. It did not say it happened in multiple 4s, except for years evenly divisible by 100, but not by 400. So the year 2000 would have been divisible by 100, but the year 2000 is also divisible by 400, so that would negate the 100. So then it would still be a leap year. Because 4... but also 100, but also 400. That would make it a leap year. So that means in 2100, that would be divisible by 100, but not by 400. Then we would not have a leap year in 2100, even though it's would count as every 4 years and a multiple of 4. And Sorry if that's confusing, but that's the current reality, okay? I just ran into that like by accident. So I'm like, what? Every year we have a president's election. That is interesting in itself when you think about it. Now people say Popeye was smoking weed and not spinach. But he wasn't smoking it, he was eating it. But yeah, it is kind of interesting. I also would say that weed does not make you strong and energetic. So I think I would not go that far. The symptoms are just not right. I like some of these answers. Never heard of that load of crap before. It should be divisible by 4, but it's negated if it is also divisible by 100, but not by 400. Yeah, I know. So if it is divisible by 4, but it is also divisible by 100, but not by 400, then it's canceled. Oh my God. Even saying it is confusing. Okay. I think I would at least remember there's a whole bunch of confusing other stuff, exceptions or something. Even if I couldn't remember all the details, I think I should have remembered. Like, there's more to it. Okay, so that one, so we were kind of talking about, we were talking to somebody in the chat, and this is kind of how got it all started, is that Thanksgiving is on the 4th Thursday, and he remembered it on the 3rd Thursday, but this year it's on the 4th Thursday, and he was looking ahead for his schedule for next year, and he had heard that on leap years, it's on the 4th Thursday, and on non-leap years, it's on the 3rd. Now, I looked this up, and it's not true, but that's what he had heard. So when he saw that it was on the 4th Thursday this year, he saw, oh, because it's a leap year. So I don't know if he, like, what timeline he got on that was a thing. He doesn't even really seem to believe in the Mandela that much, but he does seem a little confused on a few things. So that was like a weird thing. So that got me like looking though, and that's when I found this leap year thing as not being every 4 years. But another thing it did say was that Easter is a week earlier on a leap year. Let me just dig that up, which I don't remember being a thing. Why don't they just leave it on its normal time? I mean, like, why? Why don't you just, every other one is, I don't know. Everything you need to know by why does Easter's change dates? Here how the date is determined. With the annual change from April to March and back again, it's not always easy to keep track. I don't remember being in March. It was always in April. I can't tack it down too hard, but I always like, okay, April's coming and there will be Easter. The date of Easter changes every year. It can be as early as March 22 or as late as April 25. It comes early this year, falling on the last Sunday of the month. This is 10 days earlier than last year's April 9 date. Next year, Easter is back to the month of April, falling much later than the past years on April 20th. This also means that the beginning of Lent and Ash Wednesday changes dates every year, too. Most Christians know Ash Wednesday's date depends on Easter. Wouldn't it be simpler if Jesus Christ's resurrection were celebrated on a set day? Yes, I don't think he kept switching days, did he? I'm trying to get to the boring part. Why is Easter this year holiday, which it depends on the moon. Easter's exact date varies so much because it depends on the moon. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever heard that it depends on the moon? The holiday is set to coincide with the first Sunday after the Paschal full moon, the first full moon after the vernal equinox. Though the equinox's exact date can vary each year according to the Old Farmer's Almanac, the church always recognizes the vernal equinox as March 21. This is weird because yesterday, I swear to God, it said Easter's a year later, and that's why I wrote it down. I mean, it's a week later during... This says it has to do with the full moon. Now, this like totally conflicts. I have not read this before, so I'm like totally confused by this Pascal full moon thing. Like, I hope an AI didn't write it. It was written in 2024. Now let's go to Wikipedia, which is saying something else. The date of Easter is determined each year through a calculation known as computus. Easter is celebrated on the first Sunday after the Paschal full moon, which is the full moon. Determining this date in advance requires correlation between the lunar months. By the 3rd century, communications in the Roman Empire had deteriorated. So the church put great value to a system that would allow the clergy to determine the date for themselves, independently yet consistently. Why don't you just set the date on the supposed day that he was born? This is weird because yesterday I totally found this leap year thing where it said leap year holidays. Now, if I had time, I would go all the way back in history where I was looking at last night. Another weird thing is they were calling Leap Day a holiday. Leap Day holiday. I'm like, what the hell is the Leap Day holiday? I don't think anybody thought of it as a holiday. Oh, this is weird. Because yesterday it said every holiday will move ahead by one day. And this one is saying every holiday will head ahead by 2 days. Now, I'm really wondering if that other website I saw yesterday is still there. This is bugging me. This is like the second week in a row that I found something yesterday that I can't find today. The extra day in February 2020 has made it so the holidays line up perfectly. Okay, that was last leap year. All right, I don't know. I don't know, but I found a different one that Easter has to do with the moon. Yesterday, it was saying that Easter was moved up 1 week because of leap year. Can't find it now. I don't know if it's still there. Ew. Something very strange. For the first time in my life, I boiled eggs and 2 of them had black fungus inside. I've never seen it. So eggs used to be completely sealed so they could never have like germs in them because it just couldn't get in there. You know, I mean, I've never heard of black fungus being inside an egg. That's creepy. Wind scorpion is also called a camel spider. So the camel spiders have taken over the universe. Those things for me just showed up and they were in like Iraq during the Iraq war and they were holding them up and they were really creepy and I looked them up and they were only in Iraq and I'm like, good riddance. And then they showed up here. I found one in the living room. It was a little smaller than the Iraq one, But yes, we have them now. Ugh. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. You know, there's definitely a lot of stuff that's been written by AI, I've noticed. There's certain things where it contradicts itself. The order of the paragraphs and where information is in there often is not how it would normally be put. It'll also repeat stuff a lot over and over, which you normally wouldn't say the same thing in almost the same way, like 3 different spots on the same page. But the AIs will do that. This is the thing. I used to look stuff up and not find, like, I found it yesterday and now I'm looking and it's totally different. And it's happened twice in a row and I don't know what's going on. All right. Leap day Thanksgiving is a week later. So I used to be able to do this where I would just write stuff down and find it again, but maybe I can't do that anymore. I'm not sure. I can save the websites on like a, I might have to do that if this keeps up. Kind of save it in some kind of list and then copy paste them when the time comes. All right. All right, so there's a maneless zebra now. There's another weird thing. Mane, like it has no mane hair. It's called a maneless zebra, but it has a little bit of mane right now. I'm wondering if it's going to sneak off. So here's the thing for me. I feel like the regular one's got more mane, and then this thing has less mane. So remember the zebra mane sticks straight up. So when there's a maneless zebra, like when you see a horse and you don't see mane, it could be that the mane's on the other side of the body. But with these guys, they have almost no mane. So there's one thing that Bill was showing me that he noticed. And I was already kind of looking at these feet because the way I remember the feet was that the stripes were up here and then there would just be a couple kind of, they would peter out towards the end of the leg. They would kind of peter out underneath the stomach. The stomach would be white and it would just kind of end, like they would end like teeth, and then there'd be white in the middle, and that was in the stomach. And there'd be kind of some like slash marks of black, and then the rest of the leg would be white. So it'd be kind of like just a couple, and then the inside of the leg would be white, and then it would just peter out the whiteness. So it didn't get like they had super dense leggings of stripies on. Oh, I see the ear. What was the ear before? Somehow these ears don't look right either. I think were they just black before? I think these ears might have been just black. They have a black mane, a black tail, black nose, black. Okay, and some of these images that I've seen of these guys, they'll have like a black stripe all the way, like a zipper on their stomach. It's in black and that I don't remember because I remember it, fingers of black and just being white underneath. So, but anyway, so we have a maneless zebra now, and that's this guy. He has almost no mane. I'm not sure what the benefit of that would be, but we do have it. And so I think Bill said, I don't know, we were both chatting. I think basically this is Bill's find here. That I think he was saying there was maneless horses, and then when I looked in, I found maneless zebras. Okay, so here's the normal dudes. And so they're getting like enough mane to flop over and stuff. I think the mane used to be maybe half that, maybe 2/3 that, but not this long. And you can see here, there's some, the mane used to be all black. It wasn't striped for me originally. So now it's striped and we're getting a big black tuft. And there's enough coming over the top. They didn't used to look like clowns. Oh, this one's interesting because this looks more like I remember. It's just that there looks like only a tiny spot underneath that didn't have. Here, okay, there's more species now, so this could be part of why, but there was only one species original. It was more like this, but there would be, the fingers would be a little more uneven, and they would still have like the fingers here and then the slash marks. So You can see the stripes have changed a lot. I saw one the other day. It had like a couple stripes, but there was spots that was like, see if I can find that one. Okay, so what happens sometimes now is I'm just seeing like a weird, they used to be kind of evenly striped, but now it's just sort of like there might be a finger, like maybe it'll be a black finger of stripe here and it'll just end, and then there might be a dot or splot, or it's just like a lot less orderly, the stripes. The stripes used to be orderly. They didn't used to look like a Dali painting. But yeah, that was the main thing I wanted to show was the, okay, see, like this. What is this bull? I'm sorry. No. No, 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 no. Actually, how many even have that? That's crazy town. You would always see the butts of them if they had that cool look. Okay, zebra butt. Ah, so that's how it looks now, Hums. Interesting. I have never seen that before. So this stripe, they used to have black mane and then it would end though. They didn't have a stripe all the way down their butt. That is interesting. The reality has been holding out on me. Oh, look at how they are from the top. Is that real? It's not AI, is it? Zebra's Jungle. It looks like it's fake. Maybe that's AI. This AI stuff is really getting problematical. I literally cannot tell if those are real or not. Things keep changing, so if it looks wrong, you don't know if it changed or if it got AI'd. There's two different species there. It's a maneless zebra. Did I say hairless? I meant maneless. No, manes don't part to one side on zebras. They stick up. Now, horses, yes. Horses part to one side. Often enough, anyway. We've definitely got some horses where a few strands or escape the containment field and flop onto the other side. Okay, so there is an almost maneless horse, though, which is, I think... So, this one also gets me, because there's this one called Occulteki, which I have said before I think is a new one, and that's those ones that shine like metal. Now, not all of them will, but... So, they were Occulteki, which is supposed to be the progenitor, they think, of the Arabian horse. So they look kind of like Arabian, but they're supposed to be even better than Arabian. And they have this glowing, some of them have this glowing silver or gold look like this. Obviously, these would be the expensive guys. But then there's also one called Turkmen horse, and that's the one they said was maneless. But now that I'm looking at Occulteki, they don't exactly have a ton of fur on them. Now, I know I saw Occulteki with hair, with mane hair before. But it's tricky with these pet horses because they will... See, I mean, is that even a real horse here? They will sometimes just trim the mane real hard. Now, that's usually more of a UK thing than an American thing. And I'm not sure what the Arabian countries like to do. And when you see him like this, you just assume the mane's on the other side. But he's running, so it should fly up. So, I'm looking at this one. I'm pretty sure that's real, but it's getting hard to tell. So then when I worked up the Turkmen horse, last night, and I'm going to do the wiki now and see if it says the same thing, because I was sort of going crazy yesterday, because they're like, well, the Akhal-Teke might be the same as the Turkmen horse, but blah, 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 blah. Turkmen horse, an oriental breed from the steppes of Turkmen Desert. Closest modern descendant is thought to be Akhal-Teke. It influenced many horse breeds, including thoroughbred. Some horses bred in Iran and Turkmen today are referred to as Turkoman and have similar characteristics. All right. Okay, this is not what it said yesterday. This is interesting. I looked up this same wiki yesterday, and then they said some people think that Akhal-Teke and Turkmen are the same horse. That's what it was saying yesterday. When was the last time this was changed? Page was updated December 2, 2023. So it wasn't changed yesterday. Yeah, I don't know. Things are getting shifty. Because I know it said that I was confused because they were saying that. They were like, maybe it's the same horse. I'm like, well, they said before that Akhal-Teke was the progenitor ancient breed horse, but now they're saying the Turkoman is the ancient progenitor breed of the Akhal-Teke. So things are moving fast. This is crazy. I know this said it was different yesterday. This is crazy. It's going to be hard to do this show if this keeps up, because I won't even be able to, like, prove anything. All right, so the Turkmen, it better still be maneless or I'm going to be pissed. You better not change too fast. All right, find mane. Turkoman was taller than the desert-bred Arabian. Was taller. They still have Turkoman. The back of the Turkoman, Teke Turkoman. What's a Teke Turkoman? An Akhal-Teke is much longer. So there's a Teke Turkoman? Making me crazy. Though both Arabian and Turkoman may have had a common ancestor in the Oriental horse, in their purest old forms they were very like one another in some ways and not like others. The Turkoman was taller than the desert-bred Arabian and had a sparse mane. Is that it for mane? That is it. So yesterday, if you did Google for maneless horse, you would find Turkoman. Do we not find it as maneless now? It's not coming up. I'm blaming this one on Bill because he helped me find it yesterday. But I know I did a Google on maneless horse and found Turkoman. Show results with maneless. That one is just joking. All right, let me just look up maneless horse and see what we find. So when I typed in maneless horse, I first found the zebra, and I saw there was Turkoman as listed, but I didn't get to it, and then Bill found a note on the maneless horse in ancient China. Oh, this is crazy. So it's not coming up now. I feel so trolled. So what they were saying the other day was that there was very short mane. Like the mane was just like this long in the Turkoman. So to make things more confusing, sometimes they do cut manes to that. They have this pulling procedure that makes it look natural instead of just slashed with the scissors. It makes the irregular edges, so it looks like the mane is only that long, and it's convenient for putting the bridle on and stuff because it doesn't get all tangled. Now in America, people prefer often to leave a long flowing mane, and they might just cut a little bridle path here to get the bridle on, but they're much more likely to leave the mane long. And in the UK, that's considered kind of untidy, and like they should have a haircut. But look, there's nothing. I'm finding the mainland zebra, but not like, I don't know. So I don't know if Google just changes its algorithms every 5 seconds, or if it's shifty or what. But it's making me look bad, because that's 2 of them this week. And it's not like I did any less research than normal. Usually if I did the research the day before, it would still be true. Okay, so we do have another weird thing I found. It better still be here. Amylinism. Amylinism. This one was making me crazy last night because it's called amylinism, and it's something kind of like a pigment thing. So like we've had leucism and piebald and albino and melanistic in the past, and now there's this thing apparently called amylinism. But when I tried to look up what it was, like some websites were saying it was sort of like leucistic, where you're not albino, but you're like not full pigment. It's like a weak version of the pigment, like you're weakened. And it sounded like leucistic, or like mute gene. Like if you have like a very light colored tabby that is sort of light gray, they would say it's a mute gene that made it so that the full coloration of tabby didn't get through, and so they look kind of like they ran out of ink, right? And that was called the mute gene, and they didn't really have a fancy word for it, but I just kind of knew it as there's a gene, and they would call it the mute gene. I don't even know if it's true that that is the mute gene anymore, but at one time they'd said that. So I look up amylinism, and some of them said that it's like leucism, and then other sites were saying it's the same as albino. I mean, so why have another word if it's the same as albino? Also known as amylinosis, characterized by a lack of pigments called melanins, commonly associated with a genetic loss of tyrosinase function. Okay. Loss of tyrosinase. All right. Okay, it does look like it's sorted itself out a little since that. I don't know if we're in like super shifty land, because this is one I couldn't sort out last night, and now there seems to be all different answers again. I did not see the tyrosine thing last night. I was looking up the difference, and one said it's due to a defect in the enzyme that produces melanin, and albinism is due to a lack of tyrosinase. But that other place just said that amylinism was a lack of tyrosinase. Is an animal with red eyes and white skin an albino or amylinistic? Why do human albinos have blue eyes and blonde hair? I thought human albinos used to have red eyes. All right, so there's no answer here other than this confused person. Okay, many people confuse albinism with amylinism. All right, albinism is a total lack of all pigmentation, including the eyes. And then you should have the pink eyes again. Most reptiles possess other pigments such as xanthin and etherin, even when there's no melanin present. Okay. Melanin. Amelanism. All right, so it's an absence of melanin Melanin. It's an absence of melanin, but they could have other pigments because now there's all these other pigments besides melanin. Okay, so that's it. I think that's actually it. Okay. So it can still have color, it just won't have melanism. Melanin. Oh. All right, this is interesting. I actually did this exact Google like yesterday, and that was completely different and not very useful answers. So I don't know if it's just coming into the timeline and it's still really shifty. This is making me crazy, though. Stuff will not stay still long enough for me to develop this show. Okay, okay, so yeah, Bill did that Turkmen horse that sort of disappeared, but I still credit for him. The leap year story is by, I don't know if I have permission to give his name, but it starts with a W, and you know who you are. Oh, okay, that Star Trek Generations skirts thing. I apologize for not giving credit. That was by Super Mario Brothers 3. That was the commenter. So Super Mario Brothers 3, good job. The whip spider with the little hands was by RuneWolf77. So good find, RuneWolf77. I don't know what, I'm like spaced out or what. I have just not... I just feel like my brain has changed. It's gotten better at certain things. I can talk real fast. I can think real fast. But yet I'm forgetting stuff I always remembered. Like to credit people who gave me the stuff. And so, yes, RuneWolf77, good find. And then Plant Fluorescence Irradiance was Mark Tyus. I'm pretty sure I said him already. All right, I've caught up with all these people I forgot. Apologies. Did not mean to steal your stuff. All right, one more. I got 9 minutes. Let me just see what you guys are up to. Even the shifts are getting shifty. Pretty sure I shifted yesterday afternoon. It was weird. Not so depressing and empty, desolate, lonely this time, but still negative vibes. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm not having the same level of physical side effects now. Knock on wood. And I do feel overall I'm moving in the direction of more positiveness. I think I'm making progress. There's still plenty of progress to be made. So I feel that way, but at the same time, things are really just getting weird. I don't feel the shifts like I did before. You would be ill for days. Yeah. The way things change so fast, you'll lose the info from one day to the next if you don't record it. Yeah, well, you know, the writing is still there, but I don't know if it's true anymore. I actually specifically wrote some of this stuff down pretty carefully so I could find it again, but it's just, I'm actually going to have to, like, save the website now, I guess. And then if it still changes, then I'm really screwed. What are you going to do? Schizophrenia, I guess. Are you talking about the blue-green spots on the backs of babies? What? What blue-green spots on the backs of babies? What kind of babies? Human babies? The Mongolian spot? It's blue spot on backs of babies? Mongolian spot. Mongolian spot. We never talked about that before, did we? I don't remember that. That's weird. Okay, Mongolian spot, also known as slate gray nevus, or congenital. I do remember talking about these mole things, but I don't remember there being like a spot in one spot. Like it wasn't always in the same spot on the baby. So, yes, we talked about nevus, but I don't remember. Slate gray nevus, people are not. All right, so it's weird that it is sort of on the back here. Is caused by melanocytes. So I guess if you're if you have amelanism, you won't get the. This is interesting because these spots used to be like moles, but now they're just saying they're melanin blobs. So this is a whole different story. They're not moles anymore. They're deep melanin. Okay, so this is sneaky. So people know you can have moles, so people accept that. Then, oh, you got a big mole. Oh, you got a really big mole. You got a mole that's the size of half of your body. But now it's not a mole, it's a nevus, and it's just melanin. So basically you have black skin in one's blob or slate gray skin or whatever. So now you're just colored differently. So you basically squeegeed it over. Once people got used to the coloration thing, now it's just coloration. It's not a mole. Usually in multiple, so they're saying, let's see, melanin are usually located on the surface of the skin, the epidermis, but are in the deeper region, the dermis, in the location of the spot. So it's deep pigmentation. It covers one or more of the lambosacral area, lower back, the buttocks, side, and shoulders. Results from the entrapment of melanocytes in the lower half to 2/3 of the dermis during the migration from the neural crests to the epidermis during embryonic development. Ah, ho, ho. Okay. Some of you have obviously been in this timeline longer than me, but I do not remember Mongolian spot. Now, I did cover nevus, but I don't remember if I checked if it was still a mole or not instead of just melanin only. So it's now not, it's just melanin. That's all it's color. That's all it is. It's not a mole. And so they're saying because of the traveling of the melanin from one part to another, and then the melanin gets trapped, and it's always on the back and butt region, and I'm sure this is going to continue growing onto some weird polka dot humans or something. Who knows what it'll be. Crazy. Like, good find, whoever that was. Now I'm all confused. I feel like today has just been like, and last week wasn't much better, but it's just, I feel like I'm going crazy sometimes. I know people have. So it's not on every baby. How common is Mongolian spot? There's a good question. Female and male are equally predisposed to slate gray nevus. People may mistake them for bruises, but they're not. You know, they just totally skipped the commonality of these things. It normally disappears 3 to 5 years after birth and almost always by puberty. That's a new one. I've not heard of that. It was described and named by Mongolians. This is bizarre. So you knew about this, and I'm like, what? This is totally crazy. Prevalence here. Infants may be born with one or more slate gray nevus, ranging from small area on the buttocks to a large area on the back. The birthmark is prevalent among East, South, Southeast, North, and Central Asian people. North, South, East. So only West Asians don't have it then. so much. Indigenous Oceanians, chiefly Micronesians and Polynesians. That's a lot of people. Certain populations in Africa, Amerindians, non-European Latin Americans, and Caribbeans of mixed race descent. They occur in 80% of Asians, 80 to 85% of Native American infants. Are you crazy? Approximately 90% of Polynesians and Micronesians are born with slate gray nevus, as are about 46% of children in Latin America. They are associated with non-European descent. These spots also appear on 5 to 10% of babies of full Caucasian descent. So these are super common. I mean, it really sounds like, 2/3 of the world are born with slate gray nevus. Because I don't know how much of the world is Caucasian. I don't think it's even half, is it? Population-wise, because China's huge. Africa's huge with population. And even 5 to 10% of Caucasian have it. Correa del Rio in Spain has a high incidence due to the presence of descendants of members of the delegation led by Hasekura Tsunenaga, the first Japanese official envoy to Spain. So, what? One guy has his genetics in, all of Correa del Rio? The first Japanese envoy. Babies have slate gray nevus at frequency of 90 to 96%. That's crazy. Turkish city of Izmir. 26% of examined babies had the condition. Okay, if we're not counting Arabic peoples as having a lot, then maybe it's more like 40% of the world or so, because there's a lot of Arabic peoples. Not present in mestizo populations. I wonder if anything's going to come out of this. Are we going to learn anything about those genetics? Slate gray nevus is referred to in the Japanese idiom as shiriga aoi. I think that's aoi. Aoi or aoi, meaning to have a blue butt, which is a reference to immaturity or inexperience. So if you're a blue butt, then you're immature. All right, well, that's crazy. That's definitely a big shift for me. Last time I checked, that was not. Asian people, there's more than half of it. What about constellations on your body? I do have a number of moles that scatter along my back. I always wondered if I was submachine gun shot down in another life or something, because they're like Oh, yeah, our Generica just said the same thing. I've heard of that before, but it really does look... I had a dream once that I was in the military in the old school times when they used to wear the army gray uniforms, the grayish green ones, and I just, got shot in the back. So I always wondered if, did that really happen? And it's there. I have no idea, but... I could feel the Schumann resonance being high now. It has a sound. That's interesting, because Dave was asking me earlier today if I heard this fan noise in the corner of the room, like a fan was running. And no, I couldn't hear that, because that shouldn't be there. There's nothing in the corner of the room. But I do hear tinnitus all the time, but I know what those sounds are, so I don't, if somebody asks, do you hear a sound, I'm discount all of the normal tinnitus sounds when answering the question. So is tinnitus hearing the Schumann? There's another question. Hope that Trump's time machine is still working. I don't know. Is he good stuff with his time machine or bad stuff? Anyone from Florida? I don't remember the Pegasus and Dragon statue And it's been there since 2014, so 10 years. Pegasus and Dragon statue. Hey, maybe the Miami Mall aliens put it there, in case anybody's been watching the news. Pegasus and Dragon. You know what? I gotta go, don't I? All right, I'm gonna skip that one because it's time for me to hit the road. All talk and no end is going to make me go overtime. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. You know the drill. Think good thoughts, everybody. Appreciate you very much. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.